Thanks so much for tuning in to Set Apart. This is a podcast that was designed to lock arms and figure out this pivotal season we call young adulthood with other ordinary teens and young adults who desire to be set apart with Jesus rather than conform to the world. So with that, relax and enjoy this episode of Set Apart. Yo, what is up, guys? Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Set Apart. I'm here with Luan, and we have a special guest on today. He's one of my friends. Met him this year here at Liberty. He is an RS on campus. He has a lot of things going on. He's very talented. I'll let him introduce himself a little more, but I introduce to y'all Blake.
What's up, y'all? Glad to be a part of this podcast. Zhane is my boy. I just met Luan recently, but glad to be a part of this podcast, man, and just talk with these boys. I want to hear about these guys and just learn, to be honest with you.
Let's go, dude.
Hey, man.
So glad to have you. All right, man. So, like you just said, we just met, all that kind of stuff. All these guys, like a lot of the people listening, don't know you, don't know who you are. So, like, tell us who you are, man. Where are you from, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. I was originally born in L.A.
Let's go.
Dope. I come from a long line of pastors.
Well,
So I'm a pastor's kid. I come from a long line of pastors. We moved. My dad is a pastor. He's also like an IT manager. So he does both. Yeah, it's crazy. That's a lot. It's a lot.
But does both, man.
We moved to Virginia, Northern Virginia, like around the D.C. area, and we moved there when I was younger. We moved there because my dad really felt like God was leading him to move there.
Mm-hmm.
He started having these dreams and visions, and he doesn't really get dreams like that. He doesn't have dreams. Then my mom started having them. Then his job asked him to move out to Northern Virginia, and then this whole bunch of things confirmed it. And so we ended up going to Northern Virginia and grew up there, man. Like I said, grew up in a Christian household, but you know, when I got around middle school, high school years, man, definitely was struggling with who I was. Definitely was struggling with my identity, man. Was just doing dumb stuff, man, because I didn't know who I was, bro. So I was just getting in fights and cursing and doing all these different, chasing girls for no reason. To try to look cool and to try to do these things and fit in. But what I didn't understand was was that this stuff wasn't bringing me anywhere. It wasn't even who I was. And after a while, I was like, bro, why am I doing this? And I was still going to church at the same time, bro. And I was like, bro, why am I doing this? Like, I'm going to church. I'm living two different lives. And I was like, bro, this is hard to keep up this facade, man. I'd rather just go one way, the right way. I'd rather just go 100% like all the way and not live these two different lives. And towards my senior year, I got out of what I call bad soil, and I felt like God placed me in a fertile soil. It was actually at the time of COVID, and terrible time for a lot of people, but actually was one of the most blessed times of my life, because it separated me from all those bad influences who were causing me to go the wrong direction, bro. And I was kind of just there. Dad's a pastor, so we always had Bibles laying around. So I picked up that Bible. I started listening to a whole bunch of podcasts. That's why you guys need to listen to this consistently, because these boys be spitting facts. These guys are wise. But so I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I was like, man, I want to turn my life around, bro. I want to do good, bro. I want to give my life to Jesus, and not just give my life to Jesus, but I pray that He does great things through me. From there, I started asking God for a vision. Like, God, what do you want me to do in my life? God, I want to do great things for you, God, and I want you to do great things through me. Things so big that they can say, bro, no way that was Blake.
Yeah.
No way that was Blake, bro. That had to be God, because I seen Blake, bro. He's all right. He's a little. He's like a C student in high school, bro. Ain't no way that was Blake. And they'll say, bro, this had to be God. And that way God would be exalted, man. And I never had dreams to be a mailman or anything like that. So I was like, God, even though mailmans, you guys have a great job. But just me personally.
They get paid decently, too, right?
They do. But my job was major impact for the kingdom. And I prayed for God, and I said, God, what do you want me to do? And I felt a call to go into ministry and be a pastor and possibly plant private Christian schools.
Come on, man.
Around the world. So my degree is business, project management, and I'm going to get my master's in divinity. I'm a junior in college right now.
Let's go, dude.
Yeah,
boy.
Heck yeah, bro.
Let's go.
Come on.
So, I mean, kind of like tying into what you said about just like ministry and all that. Here, like on campus, like I mentioned in the beginning, you're an RS, like along with Luan.
Yes, sir.
So maybe you guys can like bounce off each other here. But mainly just to Blake, like just tell us about like maybe like why you got into it, what you get to do, just like explain that a little bit more, and then just like what's it like for those who don't know.
Yeah, definitely. So when I first got to when I first got to college, I was no. Right before I came to college, right before I came to Liberty, I was leading a Bible study, and I was going through so many trials at the time. So many trials. I was dealing with like anxiety. It was the first time in my life I had ever dealt with anxiety. I was like, bro, what the heck is this? And there's a lot of different people. I was leading a Bible study at home, and it was just, man, everybody around me, it was just very dark place. And I was struggling with it, and I stopped the Bible study for a while, and I didn't like that. I was like, I felt like God had gave me this, and I wanted to go through the fire and come out on the other side. So when I came back to Liberty, somebody asked me to be a CGL, and I was like, bro, this is the chance that I've been waiting for. This is my chance to not only go through the fire, but go out the other side, despite the anxiety that I'm dealing with, despite giving up at first because I was going through so many different things and it was affecting me. I said, bro, I want to do this and I want to be a good steward over this. I want to do it right. So I took the position as CGL. And for all who doesn't know, CGL is a community group leader, which means basically weekly we have this thing called campus community, and where a major speaker comes and speaks, and we talk about that. We talk about Christ to a group of guys that were given on our individual halls at college. And it was a great opportunity, bro. I felt like, I was just studying so much. I was reading my word every day. I was reading books, and it just felt good to like pass on all this knowledge I was gaining every day to these different guys. And there's a guy who's Hindu in my group, and there's these different guys from these different walks. And I think the best thing was just building relationships with them. Like showing other people that they're loved, bro, and like showing that they care. And through that, I just loved it. And it got to a point though where I was like, I was kind of, what's the right word? I felt like I was kind of limited to what I can do because you're only assigned to the guys that you were given. You had to make your main priority those group of guys. And there's so many people in my hall who I hung out with and who I talked to, who I wanted to make a bigger impact on, who I wanted to. I love these guys. Trust me, I love being a CGL. But I was like, man, I want to be able to reach all these guys, and how can I do that? And then here comes RS position, and I wasn't even thinking about being an RS. And for all who doesn't know, an RS is a resident shepherd, and they're the ones who pour into the community group leaders, so the community group leaders can pour into their individual groups. And an RS, they're kind of in charge of the whole hall. They're kind of in charge of the spiritual life of the whole hall. And I was like, wow, I felt like somebody actually just offered me a position to be an RS. I wasn't thinking about it. And I was like, wow, this is God, showing me that since I was faithful over this small thing, it's not a small thing, but faithful over something that could be conceived as smaller, he was helping me to have a bigger influence, to be able to impact more people, So of course I would take this position. I prayed about it and I loved it. And I love being an RS, man. I feel like being an RS is what I don't want to say made to do, but I do it naturally. Whether if I was an RS or not, I would be meeting with people every day. I'd be meeting with people every day. I'd be trying to pour into them. I'd be trying to encourage them. I'd be trying to show them love. And now I just get to do it for, like with the position. Right. But I love the position. I love it. Yeah, that's a lot what I got to say about RS ministry.
Awesome, bro.
Let's go, dude. That's awesome. Like, again, I'm an RS too. I know what it is to like just do that. And it's awesome that I can kind of like catch from you is like just that heart behind it. Because I think that's like the main thing, really. Yeah. Because like a lot of people do RS, like RA, like Zhane and stuff. Like you have these positions or whatever. Like even if it's like outside of campus, you can have like positions and stuff. And I feel like the heart isn't there. Yes. Like I feel like a lot of times like people. Like, I want the position because of the position. Yes. Right? Whereas, like, a lot of people, instead of that, they should have the heart before they have the position.
That is so true.
And, like, that's kind of what I wanted to kind of tie into. And just, like, that idea, man, of, like, the heart of a servant and what that looks like, what that means to you and all that kind of stuff. Because, like you're saying, your dad is a pastor, grandfather's a pastor, everybody's a pastor. So I think it's, like, a heart thing, really. Because, like, all your, like, passion towards people, that comes from a place. So, like, how important is that? Like, to have that heart and all that kind of stuff.
That is a great question, bro. I'm so glad you asked this question because this is the part that I think every person in any position, I don't care if you're not in a position or not, but this is the part that everybody should focus on. Yeah. The heart and the servanthood. And I want to make something really clear that it's not the position that makes the leader, it's the leader that makes the position.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
You don't need a position to lead. It doesn't matter who you are. People were so astonished at Jesus, and I think Jesus is the greatest. I'm a person, everybody who's listening to this is a Christian podcast, right? So I'm a Christian. But even if you listen to this and you're not Christian, I think just personally me, that Jesus was the greatest leader of all time. Oh, yeah. And I think that because he had the results to prove it. Whether you believe he's a son of God or not, we could talk about that. I believe he is, but Jesus died 2,000 years ago, and we have, about 3 billion followers of Christ later. And to be able to lead 3 billion people 2,000 years after you died, that just shows, man, this guy was a great leader. He had great influence over people. But Jesus had no position. Jesus was not a Pharisee. He wasn't anybody that was held in high self-esteem in the community. He made an impact on that many people without any position. So when it comes to RS ministry, or when it comes to any leadership position, I say, whether you have the position or not, lead now. You know, what I believe happens is that once people see what you're doing without the position, then people want to give you the position. But the position, how many bosses have we had, and how many people that have we had over us and managers that had a position, but they weren't really good leaders.
Yeah.
They didn't push us to grow. They didn't challenge us. They made us feel worse when we came into work and all these different things. Yeah. And what does that show you? Positions mean nothing. It's just a title. Yeah. But it's the person that makes the position. And that's where Christ comes into picture. That's where the character comes into picture. I truly believe that if you want to make an impact on somebody's life, and if you want to help somebody grow, first of all, there's no other point in life than to serve Jesus and serve his people. Right. You know, to love people, bro. That's the only thing that's going to make an impact. The currency to the kingdom is relationships. Yeah. It's the only thing that's going to make an impact. So to really make an impact, you have to love people. People are not going to care what you have to say until they know how much you care. Come on. That's so good. If you want to influence people, you want to help people grow, bro, you have to show people that you love them. Right. You know, you have to show people that you're there for them. You have to show people that it's not about me, but I'm about helping us both grow. Yeah. You know, and that's where kind of the heart behind it comes from, because I don't think the position matters. Yeah. You know, it's just a title, bro. But I think who I actually am matters the most. Am I a servant as a person? Do I have to have a position to serve? That means that your servanthood and like your character is based off of conditions. But whether you have a position or not, bro, you should always be a servant, bro. So me personally, I loved people. God made a change in my heart to love people first. And then when I got offered the position, I just felt like God wanted me to walk in it. But whether I had it or not, you know, I wanted to make sure I loved people and cared for people, bro. Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, man. I think that's awesome. I like that answer, just like how specifically it goes against the other side, like the other kind of topic that we're tackling today. So, like, you kind of perfectly described, like, servanthood and what that should look like and your motivations and all that kind of stuff. But, man, like, the other side of that is, like, self-obsession, right? And so we can kind of get into this a little later too, but like the crazy thing is that servanthood can actually turn into self-obsession if you look at it the wrong way. And so like just in our generation, like we are all so self-obsessed, whether it be like our friend groups, just like, or social media or whatever it is, man. It's always like me, we're trying to get people to look at us, trying to feel accepted, all these kinds of things. And so like, what are your thoughts on self-obsession, and like, how do you think that goes against the very nature of servanthood?
I think self-obsession goes against the very nature of servanthood, because I think true servanthood comes from a security in yourself. And what I mean by that, like, if you're going to be a servant, you have to be so secure in yourself, and you have to be so, okay, I know who I am and I know what I do. And if I bend down lower to help this person, it's not going to change who I am. Come on. Yeah. And I think self-obsession comes from insecurity in yourself, bro. Is what I really comes from. You're constantly looking for admiration from other people. So you're constantly talking about yourself, and you're constantly something that I've realized in life, bro, is that most of the time, now there are a few who could back it up, but most of the time the people who like talk the most about themselves didn't have anything to offer. You know, and I think it comes to self-obsession. It's these people who are like, bro, it's about me. It's about what I want to do, everything. And that just shows me, bro, you don't really know who you are. Yeah. Like, bro, if you really know who you are, you don't mind like getting on the floor and wiping, bro. Exactly. If I go on the floor and I start mopping, if I'm in a church, and I might have a heart, I want to do worship and I want to be seen, but the pastor says, no, you get in there and you go, you get in there and you go clean the bathroom. Right. Well, if I really know who I am, I'm okay with that, because, bro, my identity is not dependent on whether I'm seen or not. You know, so I think it comes from insecurity is where that self-obsession comes from. I think And then stemming from from insecurity, a lot of this stuff starts to turn into sin, and it starts to turn into greed and pride and all these other things. But that's what I think is the difference between a servant and somebody who's self-obsessed with you. I mean, if you really know your heart, you don't need that admiration from other people. Yeah, man. You know, you're like, man, I'm firm. God has already told me who I am, so I don't have to be seen. Yeah, because my identity is not in people's opinions. Yeah, you know. So
I think like you know, man, like you could be whatever, like the guy in high school, you're self-obsessed, whatever. But then you kind of turn that around when you get into college, you start serving at a church, and people will say you peaked in high school, bro. Straight up. Yeah. Like people, they see servanthood as taking a step down, which it is. We need to get lower so that we are actually higher in the kingdom of God, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. And here's the thing, even when, I've always thought about this, man, like God says, like steward your things, serve so that you can build up your treasures in heaven and not here. Yeah. Even when we're serving, we can't be like, yo, I'm gonna go love this person so that I can have more in heaven. Yeah. It, like, you know what I mean? Like it just has to be out of the servant heart, and there can't be any material thing, anything attached to it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I just think that kind of just like popped into my head when you said that.
Sure did.
But yeah, man.
It's crazy because like you're saying the whole idea of like self-obsession. Because, like, how many times we can turn our servitude into self-obsession as well. Like, especially as Christians, I think it's kind of crazy. Because, like, we grow in, well, those that have grown up in, like, a Christian culture or whatever. Yeah, like, we're also like, you got to be a servant. You got to have, like, that servant heart. You know, have to be a servant leader and all that kind of stuff. And how many times do we hear that and we're like, okay, I'll do that because maybe I'll be blessed. Or I'll do this because, like, I know that in heaven I'll have, like, treasures and stuff. I know that if I do this, I may get the position that I'll get in the future. Right. And the thing that, like, really messes me up is, like, what if none of those things actually happen? Will you still serve? Exactly. And that's the thing you were talking about, Blake, like the whole heart situation. Because, like, I think that you're a servant. Like, you serve people, like, you should at least, out of that place of, like, this is who I am. Yeah. Like, I'm not doing this because I have to gain anything, because I want to be approved, because, like, God is going to bless me more if I do this for you, or if I love that person, like, better, I'll get some treasures in heaven or whatever. Yeah. And it's really scary how many times we can try to, like, look at me, look how I serve you. Right. Look how great of a servant I am. You see how, like, early I wake up to go to church and do all those things. You know how many people I take to church with me. Yeah. And it's really, it's a terrifying thing to see, dude.
It is. And I love that you guys, I love this conversation, man. It kind of reminds me of just Jesus, like so many things that he says. Jesus just like flips the whole idea of like that our culture has today of servanthood like upside down. Jesus says, the disciples are arguing and they're talking about, God, man, I'm the greatest. No, I'm going to be the greatest. I'm going to be the greatest. And Jesus hears them and he doesn't rebuke them. So he doesn't rebuke that desire to want to do great things for God. He doesn't rebuke that desire to want to be a leader. But Jesus says, the greatest among you will be the servant of all. Yeah. And that is so countercultural to what we see right now. And Zhane was kind of talking about that. They'll say, man, you peaked in high school and you do this stuff. And I really think, bro, it goes back to the security thing, and it goes back down to, bro, it is what's best for you. It's what's best for your heart. Everything that God commands in the Bible, everything that is right, is not. I remember when I really realized this when I first came to Christ, bro. It's not to stop you from having fun. It's not to stop you from getting praise. It's not to stop you from that, but it's so you can have the most flourishing life that you can have. When God says don't commit certain sins, it's because these sins actually have an effect on you. When God says flee from sexual immorality, it's because it has an effect on you. And when God says go and serve my people, when God says love each other, bro, you don't realize, bro, the more that you love people, bro, the better it is for your heart. God created you, so he's trying to teach you how to function the best way that you can on this earth. So I started to realize, bro, that the more that I served, bro, whether it was in front of people or not, the more that I served, bro, the better that I felt. The more that I started to enjoy this life, the more that I started to feel a purpose. When I used to, and there's times I have to fight these thoughts because the enemy will throw something that looks so good at first, and then you try it, and then I could just think about times I did stuff for myself, and I was like, bro, this is so empty, bro. Even if you're at the top of like the mountain, bro, it's like, bro, they're so empty. Nobody else is here with me. But that's not a leadership quote. That's not a servant quote, bro. If you're really serving people, bro, there should be a group of you guys at the finish line. We got a big team, man. And I was like, man, real servanthood, bro, is so much better for me. Like, I feel so much more fulfillment. And I think it goes back to the scripture that says, my people perish for a lack of understanding. My people perish for a lack of knowledge. Yeah. And I think what people don't understand is they really think that the grass is greener if they do wrong. And that's what the devil will try to tempt you with. Yeah. The devil will try to say, bro, if you do this, it's so much better than what you're doing in the Christian life. And then you commit those things and you're like, bro, I should have never doggone done that, bro. I'm in a ditch now. I feel so empty. I feel unfulfilled. But in real life, bro, doing what God commands, serving other people, bro, the grass is greener on that side, bro. That's how you have a complete life. That's how you have a fulfilled life. Yeah. So I think that's a lot of where my heart to serve comes from, bro. I'm like, man, I do want to live a good life, you know, and I realized, bro, that loving people is how you do it. Yeah. Not that I'm going to be blessed by God, but that's what I was created to do. Yeah. You know, and if I'm not doing that, I'm literally fighting the grain. Yeah. You know? So.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, I think the concept of kind of like gaining from self-obsession and just kind of chasing like to have our name be higher and have us be more popular. It's kind of like a big balloon, man. Like certain balloons can get very big, bro, but like all it needs is a needle to pop it. Wow. You know what I mean? Like you'd be like, whoa, this is huge. Yeah. But first of all, it's empty.
Wow.
And you can pop it. Like and it can be gone in an instant. Yeah. And at the end, like what do you have? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's why it's so important to like just look for the real like substance and like just paying attention to when like the difference between how you feel when you serve and the difference between how you feel even when you have like everything you thought you wanted, right? Because and I'm not saying we need to serve so that we can feel better about ourselves. Now that's going to be probably most likely a natural effect of serving because God often rewards us. Sometimes he doesn't, but
I love that you say that. You know, I actually wanted to share a story.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy. Yeah. So we're talking about like the effects of like servitude and like serving others and like expecting things in return. I remember like a few years ago, and it's like that whole idea of like how pride can mess you up, dude. And then like especially when it comes to like service and stuff. A few years ago, I was still in high school and like things were going great in ways. Yeah. But in other ways, like they weren't, like mentally and stuff. But aside from that, dude, I had like good grades in school. Yeah. And again, I was serving the Lord. I was going to church. I was like, dude, I was like the first one to get there, the last one to leave. I was doing my thing. Yeah. You know, I felt like I was doing everything kind of right. I read my Bible. I talked to my friends about Jesus. Played on the worship team and did all that kind of stuff. Opened the church, cleaned stuff, cleaned the bathrooms. Like, yo, I'm what a servant should look like. Like no joke. Like, you looking for a Christian guy to look after? I'm your boy. Like, just look at me. Yeah. All good. And then, like, I think I was a senior at the time. And, like, I was going to do ministry, dude. I was like, bro, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to school. And I spoke to some schools in, like, Texas and stuff. I was going to go to Texas and, like, get a degree in theology and stuff. I was set. I was like, yeah, bro, I'm good. And, again, I had that thing in the back of my head, like, bro, I'm doing all these things. I think the Lord is going to bless me with this and all that. I spoke to them. Had, like, great grades in school. I had, like, a 4.2 GPA. Like, things are great, dude. And I was, like, feeling myself. Yeah. And then came that week of, like, decision day. I had spoken to all my friends. Like, dude, I'm doing this. It's going to be great. And then took a nap. I remember this day so vividly. I went to soccer practice. I came back. I took a nap. I opened my computer. They sent me an email saying that, like, all the scholarships went through in ways of, like, I lost all of them. Wow. So, like, I couldn't go to the college anymore because, like, at the time, I was, like, adjusting, like, passport stuff and all that kind of crap. Yeah. So, like, I lost all my scholarships. Couldn't go to the school. And I woke up. I was like, what the frick is going on? Wow. I was so mad. Yeah. And I remember I was walking to the bathroom. And I was, like, crying and stuff. And my mom met me, like, halfway. And then she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, going to the bathroom. She's like, what's going on? Like, what's wrong? Yeah. I was like, everything is fine. Don't worry about it. Like, it's all good. And then she was like, no, sit down right now. You're talking to me. I was like, frick. So I sat down and she's like, okay, what's going on? I told her everything. I was like, hey, this school called and stuff. Like, I got the email from the school. Couldn't get the scholarship and stuff. And like, I wouldn't be able to pay for school aside from that. Yeah. And I was like, and I don't understand. I remember this. I told her, I was like, I don't understand how God could do this to me. Because like, I'm this Christian guy and I look at all these kids in my school and they're doing all these crappy things. They're getting drunk every weekend. They're doing drugs. They're doing all these things. They don't serve the Lord and they're getting all these opportunities. And here I am. I go to church, I serve the Lord, I do all these Christian things, and now I got to suffer. Yeah. And my mom looked me straight in the eye. She's like, and that's why he did it. Because if you were to get to the places that he wants to take you like that, you would think you did it yourself. Like, frick. Wow. And I look at my mom in the eye. I was crying. I was like,
hey, bro.
You're right.
You need Mama Souza on the podcast.
So I was like, frick. So I was like, all right.
My goodness.
That is right. Wow. And then from that point, I was like, yo, what am I doing, bro?
Yeah.
What am I doing? Like, it took me, like, to hit a wall in order for me to recognize my heart was not in the right place.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. Like, I just wanted to share that because, like, dude, if we don't be, like, if we're not careful, we can, like, do all these things and think we have the heart in the right place. Yeah. But pride can creep in so easily, bro, and, like, we get messed up, bro. Yeah. We get messed up. So, shout out to my mom. That was gas.
I agree.
I think that was maybe one of the best transitions I've ever seen in my life. Because kind of what I was going to ask next to Blake was, like, maybe, if you're willing, like, what is a story where maybe you kind of had a similar experience as Luan, where you were in that position of heart maybe wasn't in the right place during serving, and then it ended up costing you, and, like, what did that cost? What did that look like for you?
Yeah. I think I kind of have a very similar situation to Luan. Actually, when I first came to Christ, and I didn't necessarily understand it till after I went through it. But I remember when I first came to Christ, I was on fire, bro. Mm-hmm. I was on fire in the same way. I was serving. Like I said, I was trying to do Bible study. As I was reading my Bible, I was talking to God, to people about God as much as I can, and I was just seeking the Lord. And I didn't think that necessarily my my desire was wrong. Like, my desire was, bro, I want to live a good life while I'm here. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad desire, to live a flourishing life, a life serving Christ. But I was doing all what people would say were the right things. And then this is actually when anxiety hit me. To this day, I could say the biggest trial in my life, bro. Something that I'm still definitely better, but something that still happens from time to time. I'm still working through. But man, panic attacks and all these different things started happening, bro. And I don't know if anybody who's listening to this podcast ever went through anxiety, bro. It's like something that it feels like you're out of control. Yeah. And I was the type of person, bro, I liked to control stuff. I know what I mean by control stuff, bro. I was like, bro, if I can, I'm going to solve this issue, bro. Yeah. Like, I'm going to get through it. I'm going to press my way through it, And I got to a point, and I was doing all the right things, bro. And then that was the biggest trial of my life, and it was hurting me. And so many different things happened, certain relationships, just because I wasn't in the right headspace, And I was like, God, I don't understand. I did all the right things. I did everything that I was supposed to do, God. And you're, like, taking me through this trial. And but the thing that God showed me after I was done with that trial was that trial was the thing that was actually making me better. And what I mean by that was that trial was the first time I really had to fully depend on God, bro, because it was something that was outside of my control. Yeah. It was like, I was like, bro, I can't control this, bro. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what to do. I had to, like, there were so many days I was in tears. I was on my knees, and I was like, God, like, this is something that only you can do. And then it took me out of the picture, and then I realized how strong God was. And because of that trial, I realized that it was never me doing it. Yeah. It was never me doing it. It was the strength of the Holy Spirit, like, using me to do all these things. And I thought it was me until I went through a trial where there was nothing that I can do. Cool. And God said, okay, now it's time for me to show you that I'm God. And that I do care for you, and that I love you, and that I can take you out of these things. And all this time, I thought I was climbing this rope, and I thought I was the one holding this rope. And then I fell off, and I realized the whole time God was holding me. And that was definitely something that I feel like was similar to Luan, because I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to want to serve, to want to love, to want to live a blessed life. But I think it turns into a bad thing when you forget what you're doing it for.
Come on, yeah.
And I think it turns into a bad thing when you think it's you doing the stuff. And you forget that God is the one who blessed you with all these opportunities in the first place. God is the one who blessed you with the hands and feet to serve. So that's when pride starts to keep in. And I had to set up boundaries, like, even for just pride. because pride creeps into all of us, and I'm definitely one of those people that pride can creep into, man. I've had many fights with that, bro, and I had to set specific people around me who I knew was gonna tell me the truth. Yeah, like Luan's mom. That is amazing. Dude, yeah. So many times we have somebody tell us not what we want to hear, but what we need to hear, and we get mad, and we're like, bro, why would he say that to me? Why? Yeah. Because it's pushing at your self-esteem, because somebody is telling you something that you're not good at. Right. But what you don't realize, that is the best blessing that can happen to you, for somebody to tell you an area that you can work on. So now in the future, I don't have to deal with that again. Yeah. I don't have to make the same mistake I did. Yeah. You know, so I had to intentionally like put people around me that were real, and that were level-headed, and they didn't see me as a God, and they didn't see me as a great leader. They didn't see me, but they saw me as Blake, a flawed human being, and they weren't afraid to tell me the things I dealt with. I can even think about last semester, just growing, man. I was I don't know. I was just, there was a lot of things in my character that I realized I needed to work on, and somebody confronted me about it. And at first I was like, yo, I don't even know you like that, bro. How you gonna tell me about this? And then 2 weeks later, God was really dealing with me. I was like, you know what? She's right. And if I want to be a better Christian, if I want to, you know, really be like Christ, I should use this to grow. Yeah. You know. So yeah, that was long-winded, but that's a similar story.
That's good, man. Thank you.
Yeah. I think, like, going through those things, it can be very like the moment between when we are in that state of pride, thinking that we can do all these things by ourselves, and then the moment that, you know, between then and when we actually start like changing our heart, like that initial like blow of somebody like, yo, like, you're doing this wrong, you need to fix it, and you're like, excuse me? Like, who are you, bro? And then you start to like justify in your mind, like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. Like, blah, blah, blah. They don't know what they're talking about. And then like eventually it starts like kind of eating you up, and you're like, and you know, and you're kind of in that, and you don't want to admit that you're wrong, but you know that you're wrong, bro. Yeah. So kind of like transitioning out of that state where you're like very stubborn, up until the point that you're like, thank you so much, God, for that person. Like, what is that? Like the transitioning of your heart and like the readjusting of your heart, like what was that like for you? And I know you said you had some like certain people around you, but like what was that like, that readjusting of your heart?
Yeah. I think the first thing I had to do, because, okay, one thing you guys are going to realize in life, a lot of people are going to have a lot of things to say. Yeah. And especially if you're doing good, you know, if you're doing right things, a lot of people are going to have a lot of false things to say, and some people are going to have some real things to say. So the first thing I had to do is like ask myself, where's this coming from? Like, where's this coming from? Is the person that's talking to me, do they really know me, and do they really love me? Yeah. You know, because some people, they may just do this to you and they don't know anything about you. But specific people had come in my life after that girl who said the same thing, and these were people that I knew cared about me and people that I knew loved me. And once I realized, okay, bro, like, these are people that care about me and these are people that love me. They wouldn't just say this to say it. I started thinking, and I think that transition, it really took a lot of self-reflection. It took me getting away. And getting to a quiet spot and just being honest. I think honesty, humility is like the number one factor in growth. You know, being honest about where you suck. Yeah. Like, that's one of the best things I've done, because it takes so much pressure off of me, like, to be perfect in those areas, to just be honest. And even in leadership, because we've been talking about servanthood, which I believe is the same thing as leadership, or good leadership. I believe honesty is so key, because if you're honest about your flaws, you can put people on your team who are better in those areas, you know, and that just makes success even more possible. But if you're not honest about those flaws, bro, you're building on sinking sand. Oh, yeah. You know? So it took honesty. It took God, like, me reading the word and me speaking to God and me saying, okay, God, like, am I tripping? Like, God, like, you got to show me. And then you read the Bible and it's like you're looking at a mirror and it's like labeling, oh no, these are some areas in your character that you got to work on. It took some time. I say it took like a month or two to really do it, and to really admit. That's a long time, bro.
Yeah, just admitting.
Just to admit, because at first I was like, bruh, at first I was like, bro, ain't no way, man. And after I really thought about it, I was like, you know what? You're supposed to be held above reproach.
Yeah.
You know? So even if I didn't feel like it was that bad, but it hurt this other person, I'm still not holding myself above reproach unless I truly admit, bro, I was wrong. And, you know, in this area, I have to have character. Yeah. So that transition, it took a while. It took honesty. It took a lot of humility from God. And yeah.
That's good, man. That's good, bro. You know, I think that, like you said, you kind of said how, like, servanthood and, like, leading is kind of the same thing, in a way, which I totally agree with. But within, like, leadership, sometimes when we're serving a leader, so let's say, you know, like your boss, that's at your work, or whether you're serving at a church, or whether you're, like, we all have flaws, right? Yeah. And I think it's most of, I guess dangerous would be the word, or most, I just stick with that, I guess, for lack of a better term. But, you know, when our leaders themselves are, when we can see their flaws, and when we know that they aren't perfect and we still have to serve under them, that can be harder, right? Yeah. And so, kind of like, what is, like, how do we honor them despite, like, their mistakes, while still, like, guarding our hearts and being careful?
Yeah. That is a great question. I think, number one, it takes the leader. So I think really what it is when it comes to a lot of leaders that we serve, it's not that we don't like their flaws, but a lot of times it's that we don't like that they're not, that they don't know that they had flaws. So a lot of times leaders have, people in leadership positions, I shouldn't say leaders, people in leadership positions have this mentality, right? No, I can't show my flaws. I can't show my weaknesses. I got to be strong. I got to buckle up with my bootstraps. I got to do all these things. I got to be tough. And then everybody else can see your flaws, and everybody else can see these areas where you need to, where they need to work on. And then it's very frustrating working with that somebody, because you're trying to grow, but since they're not acknowledging the flaws, you can't grow. Right. So, number one, when you have a leader that knows that he has flaws but is working on them, I think it's much easier to serve a person like that. And I think when it even comes to our leadership, this is why you don't need a position to lead, because if you're serving the leader for anything, if you're serving the leader because he's strong, then I would check my heart first. Right. Because despite whether the leader is a good leader or not, should not determine whether I serve him or not. You know, there's many people in the Bible who had to be servants to people who were terrible, who had to love people who were terrible to them. Jesus, the greatest example. You know, he had to love people. He had to serve the people who didn't even love him, the earth, the world. And I think if I was serving under somebody who was a leader, the first thing I would have to check is my heart. God, I'm not doing this because of him. I'm not doing this because of the leader. I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this because serving is a godly thing. So the problem with that, I would say, is that we put conditions on our servanthood. But you're supposed to serve good and bad people. The Bible says that the Lord's mercy reigns on the just and the unjust. So whether the leader is good or bad, that's not up to you. But you serve either way. And trust me, God is God. And God, I've never seen the righteous forsaken. And that's a biblical truth. God will always look out for his people. And if you're serving a bad leader and he's doing some wrong stuff, bro, God will deal with him. God will deal with him. The biggest thing I want to make sure is that I'm in the right.
Come on, that's so good.
I'm in the right. Now, it's different. If it's like a major thing, like this leader is doing some really immoral stuff, I would handle it in a biblical way. The first thing I would do is confront him about it. Right. The Bible says bring 2 or 3 witnesses and confront him about it. And then after you do that, the Bible says if he doesn't acknowledge, treat him like a sinner. And how would you deal with the sinner like that? You would treat him as somebody who doesn't have the Holy Spirit. If you don't have the Holy Spirit, you shouldn't be in a leadership position anymore. Right. But if the leader is humble about it and he acknowledges it and he repents and he wants to grow, you know, he's human. Right. He's human, you know.
For sure. Dude, there's this book I read a few years ago. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It's a Tale of Three Kings. I think I've spoken to you about
I've heard
this book,
about
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Dude, this book is like straight up the story about like David, Saul, and like Absalom. I don't know if you've seen it, dude.
Yeah, it's right.
So like this book, there's a portion in like now that we're talking about serving under flawed leadership. So there's a part. So like the whole book is just like a dialogue, like an ongoing dialogue, and like David is the main character, and it's showing him like when he's serving under Saul, and like obviously like Saul messed up, like tried to kill him like multiple times, do all those things, and then like there's a portion that like really messed me up. That says like, so David is kind of asking, he's like, so what would you do? Like if you're serving under like a Saul,
Wow.
like what is the situation? Like what do you do? Do I run? Do I kill him? Do I, tell the people or whatever? And I thought it was super clever how the author like wrote, he's like, you get stabbed to death. I'm like, whoa, that's kind of weird. And then he goes on to explaining, he was like, you need to get stabbed to death because like as you're serving under a Saul, you got to be careful that you're not only looking at the other Saul. You need to be looking at the Saul within yourself and let that Saul die so that you don't become the Saul that you can become in the future. Wow. And that messed me up because like later on, what happens is David's son Absalom is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
He is the one that's persecuting David and trying to like betray him and all those things. And he had the possibility of like killing his own son.
Yeah.
But instead, he had already dealt with the Saul that was inside of him. So he didn't let the things that could have kind of like erupted to be alive. So he didn't like just act out of like pride and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And like I think a lot of times, like you were saying, Blake, and I think it's beautiful because like we have to be careful that we're like serving the good and the bad, like that our intentions are in the right place, that we're not doing it. I think you said conditional servanthood. I think that's awesome to state because like a lot of times we're like, yeah, if I like you, I'll serve you, but if I don't like you, I don't want to have anything to do with you. Or like, yeah, if you treat me right, I'll love you.
Yep.
But if you don't, you better not get close. You're gonna catch these hands, like you know what I'm saying. So like it's crazy, and I think that's wild. I just wanted to put that out there. It's a good book.
Yeah. So, like when we like, how are we supposed to serve like those people? Like on the other, like the kind of the opposite end of the question I asked previously, like when we are the leaders, right? And I guess when we're serving people that we don't like, not necessarily a boss, but maybe people that are on our same level or, I guess, I don't want to say below us, but you know what I'm saying? Like on the totem pole of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like when the people that we are called to serve and that God has called us to love, like when we don't like them, like, bro, like I do not like this person at all, but I'm supposed to like love them, treat them, serve them, like help them. How are we supposed to like do that? Like still in a heart of like, like not, okay, we can do these things and not want to necessarily in a way. Like we have, like we need to obey God regardless. Right. Yeah. But how do we serve those people that we may not like, in a way that like we can actually end up honoring God with and not just like,
doing it while grumbling.
Right.
And things. Yeah. That's a great question. Number one, I would say prayer. I think that's something that I should have spoke about a lot more because everything that we're talking about a lot of works, but it's God who gives you the strength to do all this stuff. Yeah. Right? So number one, I say anything that you struggle with, if it seems really hard to do, pray to God. And God, you don't have to ask if it's in God's will for you to love somebody. Yeah. You don't have to ask if it's in God's will for you to serve somebody. God wants you to be a servant to all and to love all. So number one, ask God for strength to serve and believe without doubting, and He will give it to you. Yeah. And number two, I'd say one more time. Remind me, your question was
how do we serve the people that we don't like?
Yeah. Number two, change your mentality to I'm not serving this person, but I'm serving God. I think it's all a matter of perspective and it's all a matter of mentality. Yeah. If you have the mentality that, I'm serving this person to help them. I'm serving this person to grow in the company. I'm serving this person to grow in the ministry. I'm doing all these things. Then it's going to be really hard because that person will fail you. Yeah. But if you have the mentality, I'm not always going to be here. Listen, 10 times out of 10, you're not going to be in that same position your entire life. Yeah. I tell you, there's many people in my life that I found it hard to work with, whether it was in the ministry or whether it was at a job or anything. And all those people aren't in my life anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so number one, this isn't gonna always be there. You know, this person, but while they're there, you know, I'm gonna serve them because I love God. It's like, why do you obey your parents?
Right.
Bro, I know my parents are flawed, but I obey my parents because I love God, not because of the person necessarily.
Because God told you to.
God told you to, but it's like a relationship. It's not even necessarily, that is true, but I wouldn't say necessarily because God told you to, but I love him so much that I'm willing to do this for him.
Exactly.
It's like when you're in a relationship with a girl, you say, bruh, I love her so much that I'm willing to do something that I wouldn't necessarily do for her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't go out buying flowers every day randomly, but I love her so much that I'll go do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love God so much that I'm willing to love this person.
Right.
And then number 3, I'd say, think about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Think about yourself, because a lot of the times we can see the flaws in other people, but we don't see the flaws that we have in ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, so number 1, most of the time, the stuff that these other people are doing is stuff that you have done or stuff that you can possibly do. And how would you want somebody to treat you if you're in that situation?
Mm-hmm.
And in the same way, Jesus talks about this, with the same measure that you use, that same measure will be used to you. So many times we read the Bible and we think about, oh man, this would relate to that person so much. This would relate to that person. But the Bible is a heart check to you first, bro.
It's a mirror.
The Bible is a mirror to you first. So the first thing I would do, I'd be like, okay, in this situation, what can I do to make the situation better? Now, when it comes down to it, and this is not every situation, but when it's one of those situations where, man, this person, I've tried everything. I tried to love this person. I tried to carry this person, and this person has just hardened their heart, and this person is just out to get me, all those things. When it's something that's out of control, give it to God and stand on his promises.
Yeah.
And this is where faith comes into it. And this is why if you're not a person of faith, it's tough, because I don't know what else you would do in these situations, bro.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, and this person has been doing all the wrong things to you and you've handled all of it right, trust in God. Trust in God. God will come through for you.
Yeah.
There are biblical truths and biblical truths, it's not based on gender, it's not based on race, it's not based on person. It doesn't matter who you are. If you do right and somebody does wrong to you and you bring it to God, God will have your side.
Yeah.
God will show you his love. He will show you his grace, and he will show you your mercy. God is a just God. God says that he has a day stored up for the righteous and he has a day stored up for the wicked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So God has you
Yeah.
when it all comes down to it. But a lot of times I've seen people use that, and a lot of times it's not true. A lot of the times we're quickly to point at that boss, or quickly to point, but we haven't evaluated all the things that we can do better first.
Yeah.
So before you even go there, I'd say, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm tripping in some of these areas. Maybe I can love this person. Maybe I can try to connect. And that's how you lead people to Christ most of the time.
And ultimately, that'll soften their heart.
Yeah. There's a proverb. I hope I'm quoting this right, but it's like a gentle answer turns away like harsh wrath or something like that. Gentle response.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how I've seen most people come to Christ, and most people like change from when they were tripping. I was like, yo, I still love you though, bro. I'm still gonna care about you. I'm still gonna be there for you no matter what you do to me. And they'll say, bro, what the heck is that? I've never seen that before, bro.
Yeah.
And then opens up opportunities to tell them about Christ.
I think the proverb was like, a gentle answer is like a kiss on the cheek or something like that. Like it related it to some kind of like, anyways, but I could be completely wrong. But there's definitely a proverb that has something like that.
It does.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyways,
Yeah.
look at the Bible, guys. All right.
Yeah,
Sorry
go to
if
your
we
Bible.
just butchered that. Sorry, God.
No, I don't think it was butchered. I think it's actually kind of accurate. I think that was it.
I'm gonna try
But
to
anyways, yeah, just search it up. We got phones now, which is nice. But on top of that, dude, I think it's pretty legit. Cause like I personally like recall moments that like my mom is really good at doing that, like serving people and stuff. But just the idea that like a lot of times, dude, like just your love towards people, like that compels them, dude. Like it embarrasses them.
Yeah.
Like the person can literally like be treating you like crap, but like if you're still like, hey, I still love you, man. Like why?
Yeah.
Like why do you love me? Like why do you do those things? And I think everything comes like you're saying, like the Lord would never place us in a place that he doesn't want us in.
Yeah.
You know, like and sometimes like we don't understand why. We don't understand like what's coming out of it. And I think a lot of times it has to do with that. Like maybe he just wants you there to love the person.
Wow.
You're not getting anything in return. You might get hurt.
Yeah.
We got some like, you know, some bruises and stuff. But at the end of the day, that's all I want you to do there.
Yeah.
And like I think it's First Peter that says like love covers a multitude of sins. Yeah.
Can I pause
Go
you real
for it.
quick?
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
I found the verse.
Oh, let's
guys.
go. Hit it.
It's Proverbs 24:26. It
Go.
says, an honest answer is like a kiss on the lips, That's
Whoa.
that's Bible. Yeah.
Okay, but I think there's a different
There's
one.
another
though.
one.
Yeah.
That's the one I was thinking of though, because it had kiss in it. So I mean,
I think it's a gentle answer.
Yeah, I think it's a gentle answer. Turns away something heart.
Oh yeah, it's a gentle answer. Proverbs 15.
there we go.
This is the NIV version. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger.
Yeah. There we go. And that's it. Kind of ties into what I was saying.
Both, whatever you want.
Both work. Yeah, both work.
But both are
Right.
Yeah, both are good. And that's the thing. Like, I just wanted to kind of like, not ask you, but like kind of lead into that idea of like, dude, how many times like Peter says, like love covers a multitude of sins.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what we got to do, man. Like, we're called to love one another. We're called to serve one another, and like, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we're put into places that like people suck, man.
Yeah.
Like, people are complicated. Like, I don't understand how God manages to love every single person out there.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't. I'm so glad I'm not God. Because like I would not be a good God. But like, and that's the thing, like how important it is to like recognize that, man.
Yeah.
So like recognize that like I don't have to agree with you. I don't need to have you on my side. You don't have to come to my church on Sunday. We don't have to play ball together.
Mm-hmm.
I love you the same way. And I wanted to ask you that, like, how important has that been for you? I mean, you definitely, like, display that, like, the idea that you wanted to become an RS because you love people, like, you want to be with people. But, like, how important is that, like, love towards others in your ministry and your life and everything that you want to do?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's the, besides my individual personal time with God, that is the most important thing in my life. But I have to be honest, bro, that's something that is a daily struggle. Mm-hmm. You know, that's something that that's something that I haven't always done good. In the future, that's something that I probably won't always do good sometimes. I mean, I'm going through trials right now where I'm having to do that right now. But that is the most important thing because it all stems back to what are you doing it for? You know, you can't – the Bible said those that delight do the things that delight, you know, and this is where our faith meets – this is where the rubber meets the road with our faith. Right. You know, are we really followers of Christ or are we not? You know, and if you're going to claim to be one, you have to do the things that Christ does, you know. Yeah. But I think it's the most important thing in my life. I find it the most satisfying, honestly, bro, to love everybody. Yeah. Like, it's much easier for me to actually love myself when I love other people. Mm-hmm. One thing that I've realized is if you look at the way that somebody treats another person, that people treat other people, it symbolizes what's going on in their own heart. Yeah, that's something that I've started to realize. Most of the people that struggle with having grace on others struggle with having grace on themselves. So number one, it started with me understanding that loving your neighbor as yourself, and me starting to see myself the way that God sees me. And when I started to see myself the way that God sees me, you know, despite my mistakes, because I've made a lot of mistakes, bro. Yeah. And God still loves me, bro. And I've made a lot of mistakes, and God still sees me as this person. And when I start to see myself as that, it makes it easier for me to see other people as that. Man, despite these mistakes, bro, God still has a great calling on their life, bro. Mm-hmm. This same person that can be making so flawed and mistake now, God can turn their life around, bro, and they can be like the biggest benefit to your life. Right. So it's a matter of perspective and asking God to change your perspective, and that's what I have to do every day. You know, that's why it's so important to get in that word and renew your mind and be transformed by the renewing of your mind daily. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not, we go to a Christian college, so we hear this stuff so much, but it is the truth, bro. Yeah. And that is the thing that's absolutely changed my mind. And when I think of times where I stumbled, it was because I wasn't constantly renewing my mind. And what I mean by stumble is not just going through a trial, but times where I made stupid mistakes. Yeah. And it's because I wasn't constantly preparing myself for the war that I was going to have to deal with today. Yeah. You know, so I think the battle, I'm a big sports guy. I love boxing. So there's a boxing quote that I've heard before, and it says, the fight is not necessarily won in the ring, but the fight is won in training camp. Mm-hmm. And I think every day you're going to have a war. Every day you're going to have people that don't like you. Every day you're going to have this stuff. Yeah. And every morning I have to prepare for that. Yeah. And every morning I have to say, God, help me to strengthen. I have to read that word every day. And you can either prepare for today or you can repair tomorrow. You can repair the things that you messed up tomorrow, or you can prepare for the day. So I think it's the most important thing, bro, honestly, besides that personal relationship with God.
Yeah, man. That was really good. I appreciate that, man. You were, just on a different level, bro. For real. I appreciate that. But
like self-obsession and
with us
servanthood,
being
man,
college
I think
students,
it's so hard for us
we do have to
to
respect
get
each other's
past
time.
that just because of how
And,
self-obsessed we are. You know what I mean? And
my
this
boy Blake
this
gotta
episode
get
wasn't
to
necessarily
some
just
college
about,
stuff
let's
pretty
get rid of
soon.
self-obsession, but
And it's actually pretty
through
convenient because
us
that's
naturally
basically
learning how
where
to
we
be
end off
servants.
anyway.
Like
So,
we won't even have to worry about that
but
because
yeah.
it'll be second nature, right?
Yeah. So yeah, man, I just appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, dude.
Luan.
Yeah, bro. Thank you. I think it was like the first time you actually like sat down and have a conversation.
It was
Had a
good,
blast,
man.
dude.
It was good, man.
Thank you so much, dude.
Real
Absolutely,
quick.
like appreciate you.
Real quick, you guys mind if I say something real quick?
Go ahead, bro.
First of all, bro, I just want to make it plain and clear, bro. Like, a lot of times, a lot of people will hop on a podcast and stuff, and they'll say a lot of stuff. And I want to say, bro, I don't have all this stuff together, man. It's constantly me growing, bro. I don't have it all together, and there'll be many more mistakes that I make. But God has grace for that, and I'm thankful for that. Also, all y'all listeners to the podcast, bro, these two dudes, some wise dudes, man. Great questions. Luan, first time I talked to you, but bro, we got to get lunch again,
dude,
bro,
absolutely.
because
Come on. Yeah.
me and you are on the same wavelength right now, and
Yeah.
you just taught me a lot of wisdom with the stuff that you said,
Appreciate you,
man.
dude.
And Zhane, you as well, bro, just gave me a lot of wisdom. I was like, man, I never thought about that before, bro. There's also another quote, I'm in with this, but one of my favorite leadership guys, his name is John Maxwell, and he says, great leaders ask great questions. And just by the questions that you asked me, it shows what type of leader that you are.
Yeah, man.
Which you guys both to know that you guys have added value to me.
Appreciate you, man.
So,
yeah, man. Well, guys, you know how it is. We're gonna be posting every week on here. Summer's coming up for us, so we're gonna be figuring that out. We'll let you guys know through social media what's going on and stuff. But yeah, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and make sure to like and share all of our content with your friends and family. Like I said, we'll be on Apple Podcasts. We'll be on, Spotify and YouTube.
All that good stuff, man.
Yeah, man. I pray that this podcast helped you guys so much. We'd appreciate you guys just shared it so we can just reach as many people as possible and just spread this message to as many young adults and teens as possible, man. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I pray that you guys have an awesome week, and we will see you guys next time on Set Apart.